talk about the true issue today. What a lady does when you stop contacting her. Not when you argue, when you threaten to leave but go silent, until you actually pull back. Gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Now, we're getting into most men misinterpret. You've been warned that stopping texting makes her forget you. You've been told women move on faster. You've been telling silence implies you've lost. That's not always true. In fact, when you stop contacting her, something very fascinating happens psychologically. And most males never notice it because they panic too early. They break first, they text first, they fold first. Here's the dubious fact. Silence often speaks louder than effort. When you evaporate, not in a silly way, but in a calm, controlled approach, her feelings don't shut down. They wake up. Curiosity wakes up. Ego wakes up. Attraction can wake up, or indifference can disclose itself. And that's what this video is about. I'm going to guide you through 7 things a woman is very likely to do when you stop reaching out. Some of them will surprise you. Some of them might sting, but all of them will aid you comprehend female psychology better. This isn't about manipulation. It's about awareness. It's about knowing what truly happens when attention, the thing most men offer too freely, is suddenly withdrawn. If you've ever wondered why she abruptly texted you after you stopped, why she's watched all your stories but not reacting, or why she seemed to move on so fast, you're about to gain clarity. Let's get into it. 1, she tests your strength. When you cease contacting her, the first thing many ladies do is test your strength, not your physical strength, your emotional strength. Most women are used to males chasing, used to double texts, used to continuously check-ins. So when you suddenly halt, it interrupts the pattern. And when a pattern breaks, people react. Here's what you need to understand. If she was used to your attention being automatic, your quiet feels like a power shift, and every time there's a shift, there's a test. She may not come at you immediately. Instead, she'll send something tiny, something casual, a hey, a reaction to your tale, a random inquiry that doesn't really matter. It looks innocuous, but mentally, it's a probe. She's checking your stability. Are you still emotionally on standby? Will you respond instantly? Will you go return to overinvesting the instant she pays you a little attention? Most guys fail right here. They sense relief. They suppose she misses me, so they overdo it. Long replies, rapid responses, emotive warmth turned all the way up. And just like that, the dynamic resets. She discovers that your silence wasn't strength, it was transient inconvenience. But when you answer calmly, not cold, not bitter, not dramatic, just balanced, you communicate something powerful. You're not reactive. You're not thirsty for validation, choosing to interact, not begging to be chosen. That alters how she views you. Here's something contentious, but true. Attraction generally grows when a man demonstrates emotional control, not when he withdraws to punish, not when he plays games, but when he proves he can return without falling apart. Let's make this real. Imagine you used to text her every morning and every night. Then you stop because you're focused on your goals. 3 days later, she sends, "Wow, you disappeared." That message isn't random, it's layered. She's measuring your reaction. If you respond grounded and unbothered, you pass. If you react great emotional intensity, you fail. Gentlemen, silence communicates more than words ever will. And when you stop approaching her, she's not simply curious where you went. She's evaluating the kind of man you are without constant access to her. Way when she wants you the most. She feels herself losing emotional control. Men are instructed to progress toward what they want. Women are often trained to protect themselves from what may hurt them. So when her feelings start getting strong, when she starts thinking about you more, missing you more, visualizing a future, something shifts inside her. She feels vulnerable, and vulnerability feels perilous. When a woman learns to care profoundly, she recognizes you now have the power to disappoint her, reject her, or walk away. That awareness might be unsettling, especially if she has been hurt before. So instead of leaning in, she instantly draws back. Not because she craves distance, but because she desires safety. Here's what most males get wrong. They think her pulling back signifies she's losing interest. So they panic, they double text, they demand reassurance, they accuse her of playing games. And that reaction verifies her dread that her emotions are suddenly out of control and the situation is unstable. But what's really happening? She is struggling to recover balance. When she slows down communication, cancels a plan, or grows little colder, she is typically testing herself more than she is testing you. She is asking internally, am I too invested? Am I moving too fast? Is he solid enough? And here's the part you need to understand. If you stay cool, stable, and emotionally grounded, you pass this moment without even trying. Imagine this. You've been seeing a woman for a few weeks. The connection is strong. She laughs easily, she texts initially, then suddenly she takes longer to reply. She seems distant for a few days. Most men feel threatened and start chasing harder. But the man who understands this psychology does something different. He stays consistent. He doesn't withdraw in rage. He doesn't ask for reassurance. He gives her space while retaining his energy and attention. He displays via his conduct that he is not shaken. And what happens? Her emotional panic settles. She sees that he isn't desperate. He isn't reacting. He isn't trying to regulate her feelings. That stability makes her feel safe enough to lean back in. Control is powerful to her. When she feels she's losing it, she steps back. When she feels safe again, she returns. Your role isn't to chase, it's to remain centered. That's the difference between a man who gets pushed away permanently and a man she comes back to gladly. 2, she tests your emotional strength. Sometimes it's about losing the job she felt she had. If she believed you were more invested, your silence challenges that belief. And when someone perceives their position diminishing, the ego reacts. You could notice tiny changes. She posts more often. She posts happier. She posts in ways that showcase her social life, not usually to attack you. Sometimes to comfort herself that she's still wanted, still handsome, still in control. Understand this. When you remove continual attention, you introduce uncertainty. And uncertainty makes people uncomfortable, especially if they assumed you would always be there. Here's the controversial truth. Sometimes she misses the validation more than she misses the connection. That doesn't imply the connection wasn't real. It suggests the dynamic included emotional reinforcement. And when that reinforcement fades, the silence feels loud. Now, this is where males make a mistake. They feel awful. They run back in to calm her ego. They restart the loop. But when you stay cool and grounded, she has to sit with that ego hit longer. And sitting with it can lead to introspection. Did she take you for granted? Was she too comfortable? Did she underestimate your value? Silence doesn't merely create distance, it produces awareness. And when her ego feels the shift, she's compelled to examine the dynamism and your place in it. Do you keep grounded or do you panic? Here's what you need to comprehend. Women are extremely sensitive to emotional upheavals. She can feel when your energy shifts. She can detect when you're overthinking. She can detect when your confidence becomes performance instead of authenticity. And once she feels that volatility, her attraction drops. Not because she doesn't care, but because she no longer feels secure. You've probably been there before. Everything is flowing beautifully. Then she becomes a little quieter, a little less expressive. And suddenly, your mind starts racing. You check your phone more often. You review old messages. You examine every word. That internal shift affects your habit. Even if you try to disguise it, she feels it. Emotional strength isn't about being chilly. It's about being steady. It's the ability to remark internally, I'm good either way. That perspective changes everything. When she senses that you enjoy her but don't depend on her for validation, she relaxes. The pressure subsides and paradoxically, she leans back in. A woman pulling you away during moments of strong attraction is typically her way of asking one silent question, are you solid? If you answer that question with calm energy, patience, and self-control, you ascend in her eyes. If you answer with fear and neediness, you confirm her misgivings. This is why emotional discipline is more potent than charm. Charm attracts her. Stability keeps her. And when she sees that you don't crumble under emotional pressure, she feels safer desiring you even more. 3, she observes you silently. When you avoid contacting her, don't assume she forgets you. More often than not, she starts watching you softly. She may not text. She may not call. She may not ask mutual friends about you directly, but she monitors. She checks your social media. She notices when you're active. She pays attention to what you post, who you're around, and how you're moving. Why? Because when communication stops, information becomes valuable. When you were texting every day, she didn't have to wonder what you were doing. She had access. Now that access is gone. And when access goes, curiosity builds. Curiosity is powerful. It pulls people in without them even realizing it. Now, here's where most men screw this up. The moment they go silent, they start posting emotionally sad quotes, oblique signals, evident attempts to look unbothered, or they disappear in a spectacular style that shouts reaction. Both extremes reveal insecurity. What you don't comprehend is this: she's studying your behavior more than you think. If you seem bitter, she feels warranted. If you look desperate, she feels relieved. But if you look stable, calm, productive, focused, that creates something different. It creates uncertainty. She starts asking herself questions. Is he genuinely fine without me? Is he leveling up? Did I misjudge his value? Is someone else benefiting from the version of him I overlooked? And here's the controversial truth. Sometimes she grows more intrigued when she doesn't have constant access to you. Not because she loves mystery because the sake of drama, but because predictable attention diminishes enthusiasm. When she knew she could text and you would reply within seconds, there was no challenge, no anxiety, no emotional pull. But now she has to wonder. And imagination may intensify emotions far more than reality ever did. When you cease contacting her and simply live your life without trying to send hidden signals, you change into a different category in her mind. You're no longer the man waiting, you're the man moving. And movement invites observation. She may never say she's watching, but pay attention. Views don't lie. Engagement doesn't lie. Subtle reactions don't lie. Silence doesn't erase you. Sometimes it spotlights you. And when she watches you silently, she's not just observing your posts. She's reassessing your value without direct access to you. 4, she rewrites the story. When you stop contacting her, something discreet but powerful begins to happen. She starts reconstructing the story in her imagination. When you were continually present, she experienced you in real time. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your habits, your consistency, everything was current. But once you draw back and communication ceases, memory takes over. And memory is selective. The brain doesn't replay events like a video recording. It edits, it filters, it highlights certain moments and softens others. That's when she begins to relive the link differently. She remembers the chuckles, the chemistry, the comfort, the within jokes, the way you showed up, the way you made her feel protected or understood. Distance removes daily discomfort. It removes tiny annoyances. It removes the routine. What's left are emotion snapshots. And here's something important. The human mind hates incomplete endings. If things didn't end with perfect clarity, stillness produces an open loop. And open loops demand mental energy. So she starts trying to make sense of it. Maybe she was too dismissive. Maybe she misread your intentions. Maybe she assumed you would always be there. Maybe she underestimated how grounded you truly were. This procedure doesn't happen in one day. It grows steadily in quiet moments, late at night during downtime, when something reminds her of you. And here's the controversial truth. Absence can boost your value in hindsight, not because you suddenly grew better, but because memory tends to romanticize what it no longer has direct access to. When she can't see your defects daily, your favorable features become clearer in her thoughts. But this only works if your silence carries dignity. If you ended anything with drama, insults, or emotional chaos, that's the version that will play back. However, if you pulled back calmly and confidently, the image that lingers is different. It's composed, it's mature, it's stable. And that version grows stronger over time. Gentlemen, understand this. When you stop contacting her, you give her space to think without your voice affecting her thoughts. And sometimes when you're no longer explaining yourself, defending yourself, or chasing, she begins to rebuild the story in a way that affects how she perceives you and how she sees herself in the position. 5, she extends out casually. When you cease contacting her and you actually stay consistent with it, there's a significant probability she reaches out. But here's what most men misunderstand. It will rarely be dramatic. It won't usually be a long emotional confession. It won't be, "I can't stop thinking about you." It will be casual, light, almost fun. "Hey stranger, are you alive? Wow, you disappeared." On the surface, everything looks straightforward, yet behind it bears weight. When she reaches out like this, she's not simply starting a conversation, She's checking the temperature. She wants to see what version of you she's about to meet. Are you bitter? Are you cold? Are you still waiting? Are you stronger now? Remember everything that happened before this instant. She felt the ego hit. She watched calmly. She replayed the memories. Now curiosity blends with uncertainty, and that produces the urge to reconnect, yet safely. Casual messages defend her dignity. If you respond negatively, she can act like she was simply joking. If you answer cordially, she can softly lean in again. It's a low-risk move. And this is where males often lose control. The instant they see her name pop up, emotions pour in. Relief, excitement, validation. They reply swiftly. They over-explain. They over-engage. They strive to pick up exactly where things left off. That can silently undo the growth you demonstrated during your quiet. When she reaches out lightly, the strongest move is balance. Not chilly, not excessively thrilled, just steady. That stability communicates something powerful. You're open, but you're not dependent. Let's make this true. You were always the one initiating conversations. One day, you stop. No drama, no announcement. Just focus on your work, your fitness, your ambitions. 2 weeks pass, then you get a note. I assume you forgot about me. That message is layered. She didn't forget you. She observed your absence. Now, if you reply with apology and heartfelt intensity, the dynamic resets. But if you reply calmly, maybe with light humor, you show growth. You demonstrate control. You show that your world didn't collapse without her. And here's the contentious reality. When a woman reaches out casually after silence, it often signifies she felt your absence more than she imagined, but she needs to see if you're still the same man she could predict or someone who has quietly leveled up. 6, she doubts her decision. When you cease contacting her, something begins to grow in the silence. Doubt, not loud regret, not instant panic, just quiet doubt. And doubt is powerful, especially when there's no more noise covering it up. If she was the one who started pushing away, your full disengagement forces her to sit with the prospect of losing access to you. Before, she could presume you'd SMS. She could think you'd check in. She could assume the door was still open. But now that surety is gone. And when certainty goes, the mind starts comparing. She compares the attention you gave her to what she's experiencing now. She compares your consistency to the inconsistency of people. She compares how safe or understood she felt with you versus what's currently surrounding her. This doesn't imply she immediately wants you back. It means your absence forces evaluation, and evaluation can change perspective. Here's something most men don't realize. When you argue, defend oneself, or strive to prove your value, you genuinely reduce doubt. You provide her reasons, you give her clarity. But when you move back gently, without rage or desperation, you leave space. And space makes people think. She may start asking her self-whispered questions. Was she too quick to detach? Did she assume you would always chase? Did she mistake your constancy for weakness? Did she overestimate your strength? Doubt grows stronger when you look stable without her. If you seem broken, she feels warranted. If you seem angry, she feels validated. But if you seem centered, focused, and improving, doubt increases since now she has to reconcile the image of you she created with the version of you she's observing from a distance. And here's the controversial truth. Sometimes a woman doesn't recognize your whole value till she senses the disparity you leave behind. Presence can be taken granted. Absence necessitates measurement. Silence removes the comfort of knowing you're still there. And without that comfort, reflection becomes unavoidable. Gentlemen, grasp this clearly. Doubt doesn't grow when you beg. It doesn't grow as you chase. It grows when you demonstrate that your life continues strong and steady without constant validation from her. And in that calm zone, her mind begins to reevaluate what she believed she was certain about. 7, she moves on. If you were replaceable, now let's have the conversation most men don't want to hear. When you cease contacting her, sometimes nothing happens. No text, no interest, no sneaky watching, no casual reach out. She simply moves on. And before you blame her, pause. This is where you need to look at yourself honestly. If your silence causes zero reaction, you have to ask a hard question. Were you actually valuable in her life or were you just available? A lot of men confuse effort with impact. You texted every day. You were consistent. You showed interest. But consistency without depth doesn't always generate attachment. If your attention was the only thing you brought to the table, then as that focus gone, it may be replaced. That's not cruelty. That's reality. Female psychology responds to value, not volume. If 10 other males can deliver the same compliments, the same availability, the same dependable energy, your absence won't feel rare. It will feel normal. And this is where I'm going to challenge you. Stop believing silence is some magical tactic. Silence only has power when the man behind it has substance. If you had no boundaries, no aim, no direction, no emotional discipline, disappearing won't suddenly make you mysterious. It just makes you gone. And that's a wake-up call. Some of you are relying on tactics instead of transformation. You thought pulling back will remedy the fact that you weren't leading, weren't growing, weren't holding steady when it mattered. It won't. If she moves on easily, it means the emotional imprint wasn't deep enough. That doesn't make you worthless. However, it does indicate you have work to do. Build a life that doesn't depend around one woman. Develop ambition. Strengthen your thinking, enhance your communication, create norms, and stick to them. When you become a man who is disciplined, purpose-driven, and emotionally grounded, your presence carries weight. And when your presence carries weight, your absence is felt. Wake up, stop pursuing shortcuts. Focus on becoming irreplaceable through character, not tactics. Because at the end of the day, silence only shakes someone who actually understood your value in the first place. Let me leave you with something extremely controversial. Sometimes the reason she reacts when you go silent isn't because she instantly understood you're the love of her life. It's because she understood she no longer controls access to you. That's a painful fact. But control and assurance are powerful in modern dating. When you cease contacting her, you're not simply removing messages. You're removing predictability. You're removing assured validity. You're eliminating the security of knowing you'll always be there. And that shift changes dynamics fast. Throughout this video, we broke down what truly happens. She tests your strength. Her ego takes a hit. She watches calmly. She rewrites the story. She may reach out lightly. She may even begin to doubt her decision. Or, and this is essential, she may go on if you were replaceable. Every single one of those reactions depends less on silence and more on the guy behind it. Silence is not a deception. It's a reflection. It represents your value. If you built depth, confidence, and purpose, your absence speaks loudly. If you created your identity around chasing her, your silence says nothing. That's the uncomfortable reality. Now, I wish to hear from you. Comment below and tell me your experience. What happened when you stopped contacting her? Did she reach out? Did she disappear? Did you learn something about yourself in the process? I read these remarks. I connect with you through them. This isn't just content. It's conversation. And here's the final truth. The instant you stop chasing validation is the moment you start understanding your actual